2. Have you ever thought about how police brutality affects society today? This is an issue that we will have to face for many years since the world has changed so much. Police brutality is defined as the use of unwarranted or excessive and often illegal use of force against civilians by police officers. Ann Arbor and police brutality. This is a largely debated topic among many news channels and citizens of the U.S. today. There is harsh opinions from both sides. Usually when people pick a side, they stick to it and don't really budge in their opinion. Large biased information from news networks. You will see it all over the news that there is biased information that is being fed to Americans today. Some have argued that American police are selectively biased against black Americans, while others say there's no statistical basis for the claim, and that disproportionate attention is given to cases involving black Americans. If you look at this quote, you can see the two sides. The first side is some have argued that American police are selectively biased against black Americans. This means that police try to be, police try to discriminate against black Americans, and that all police discriminate against black Americans. While others say there's no statistical basis to claim that. There's no information or stats that you can use to make that opinion of the first line. And also, disproportionate attention is given to cases involving black Americans. You'll see it on the news. You don't really see when a white cop shoots a white American. You'll see a lot of the times that you'll see the cases of white cops shooting black Americans. The history. This has been happening for decades. One of the biggest cases was back in the 1960s. Demonstrations surrounding the civil rights movement of the 1960s, anti-war protests, the war on drugs, and the global war on terrorism have involved claims of excessive force by police. If you look at this picture, you can see that there's force being used to calm these protests down. Now, no one is saying this is right or wrong. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is there is force being used to control these protests. The force being used is using water hoses, fists, batons, anything to control these protests. The world has changed a lot from the 60s to now, although we still deal with some of the same issues. It is still police brutality. Instances like these still keep happening today and will continue happening until something is done about it. And it's just same issues in a different time period. Today. Issues today have the same background. If you go back to the early 1900s, you will find that there is segregation in the U.S. Now there is, say your grandparents' age, 70, 80, 90 years old. They were raised around segregation. They had parents who were raised around segregation. And people back then were racist against black Americans. Segregation is the separation of white people and colored people. You will see it all over, back then in schools, mostly, and restaurants. Black people couldn't use the same restaurants, facilities, water fountains as white people. Things have changed. Now, segregation is gone today, but you will still see racism in this world. It will always be apparent. The world has changed significantly since then, but we still deal with the same issues. Both sides. There's two sides to this police brutality. One side is some people believe all police are bad. There's a group that is called ACAB, A-C-A-B, in all caps. All cops are bad. And they believe that cops are racist, cops discriminate against people of color, and use excessive force when it's not needed. And that is one side. The next side is there's not enough information to point fingers. Because the FBI does not keep complete data on police shootings by race, the claim is sharply debated. The FBI does not keep data on if a white cop shoots a black man. Race is not a statistic in their databases. And I got that from the Red Blue Dictionary blog. police sometimes have to use excessive force. That's another claim on this side. When there's a situation where someone is getting aggressive with police, they try to de-escalate it, which sometimes means tackling that person or putting them in handcuffs to make sure that they do not harm themselves or any other civilians or cops. And it's basically to calm the situation and make sure that everyone is safe and get everything figured out. What is being done? With an executive order set to be unveiled at a White House event on Tuesday, the president is expected to lay out the case for the creation of a national database of police misconduct, so officers with a history of overly aggressive behavior cannot simply move to another department or state to escape scrutiny, according to a senior administration official. This means that when a police has an aggressive background, or to where they've had a lot of reports filled out on them of them being aggressive, or thinking because they have the badge that they are all of that. This is taking steps to make sure that they cannot escape punishment by moving to a different department and leaving that situation behind so it does not catch up to them. And I got that from Nancy Cook and Trump's answer to nationwide protests, police-friendly reforms. So today, what is being done? President Biden's actions. President Biden is taking steps to ensure law enforcement doesn't have a bad rap anymore, pretty much. Biden's published criminal justice plan called for a $300 million investment in community policing efforts, including the hiring of more officers. His transition team met with the Fraternal Order of Police in November and has met with other groups representing law enforcement since. Scotty Andrew, Josiah Ryan, and Caroline Kelly in CNN. So, dissecting this quote, Biden is creating funds and giving that to policing efforts, making sure that he's hiring more officers and making sure that police don't have a bad rap and that the community can trust police again. Because right now, some communities do not have trust in the police and they avoid police and run-ins with the police. What is being done? There's many task force over the years. Now this is from 2014. Obama created a task force. In December 2014, President Barack Obama issued an executive order creating the Task Force on the 21st Century Policing, a special commission of law enforcement officers, legal scholars, civil rights attorneys, and youth leaders. Basically, higher-ups in 2014 were coming together and trying to make a decision and make bigger decisions and make sure that policing is advanced, and basically to make sure that police do not abuse their power anymore and that the community can trust police. Now that I've told you about the history of police brutality, both sides of the argument, and actions being taken towards the argument, I want you to go home today and think about this information and make a decision and what you can do to make sure police brutality doesn't happen anymore, and that you can help out your community in what way you can do that. Thank you.